Welcome to our deep dive today
Yeah,
into the world of information networks.
very cool.
You might be surprised to learn
Oh,
just how much these networks shape truth and power in human society.
it's incredible.
From ancient storytelling to today's powerful AI,
hmm
we're going to be exploring this using Yuval Noah Harari's book, Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI.
Yeah, great book.
It's a wild ride through time,
Oh, yeah.
showing how humans went from sharing stories around campfires
Right?
to building AI that can write poetry, compose music,
Yeah.
and maybe even outsmart us all.
It's really fascinating how simply sharing information
Right.
can actually create realities,
Okay.
influencing actions and shaping history in ways we rarely realize.
Hold on. Are you saying that just talking to each other,
Right.
sharing a news article, or even posting a meme is actually creating reality?
In a way, yes.
Whoa.
It's not about some objective capital T truth
Bye.
that exists out there. Information is often used to influence what people do
Gotcha.
and the shared realities we experience.
So, okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
We often think more information
Right.
automatically means more truth
Yeah.
and better decisions.
That's kind of like the naive view of it.
Right. I mean, isn't that Google's whole deal?
Yeah, but
To organize the world's information and make it useful.
that's a great goal.
Yeah.
But history shows us that information isn't always about accurately reflecting reality.
Really?
Yeah. Think of Cher Ami, a
Okay.
hero carrier pigeon
Oh, yeah.
from World War I.
World War One.
She delivered a message that saved an entire battalion of American soldiers trapped behind enemy lines.
Oh.
But get this,
Yeah.
the message also had the wrong coordinates, leading to a friendly fire incident.
Oh, my gosh.
The information, even though it was inaccurate, still had huge real-world consequences.
It's like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
Yeah. This heroic pigeon saves the day, but also causes friendly fire because of a simple mistake in the message.
Yeah.
It makes you realize even well-intentioned information
Right.
can have unexpected consequences.
Huge consequences, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And a little bit terrifying if you think about it.
It highlights how so much of the information we encounter doesn't represent some ultimate truth.
Okay.
Instead, it creates what we call intersubjective realities.
Intersubjective reality.
Think of it as a bunch of things that we as a society agree to believe
Right.
and then act upon.
So it's like money, right?
Right.
Pieces of paper or numbers on a screen don't inherently have value,
Right.
but we all agree that they do.
We all agree.
So they become a powerful force in our lives.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're just living in a world of illusions?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
These intersubjective realities are powerful, sure,
Right.
but they're not inherently bad.
No.
They actually enable us to work together,
Yeah.
build societies, and achieve amazing things.
Yeah.
Think of the story of Jesus.
Okay.
It might be a projection of hopes and feelings more than a purely historical account,
Right.
but belief in that story, the sheer number of people who believe, change the course of history.
Wow.
The problem comes when we confuse these shared realities for some objective truth,
Okay.
becoming blind to their limits and potential dangers.
Right.
Take bureaucracy, for example.
Okay.
The rules and categories might seem random,
Yeah.
but they hugely impact our daily lives.
That's a really good point. I'm
Yeah.
starting to see things in a new light.
That's great.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap
That's a great question.
of mistaking a shared reality for
Yeah.
objective truth?
It's something to always be thinking about.
Right.
One way is to constantly question the information we consume.
Okay.
Think about the news you read,
Mhm.
the social media platforms you use.
Okay.
Ask yourself, am I seeing objective reality, or am I participating in the construction of a shared reality? And how does that awareness change how you interact with information?
That's a great takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah.
Be more critical and aware of the information you're consuming. Don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Always question and consider different perspectives.
Very good.
And that leads us perfectly to our next point.
Okay.
The danger of seeking infallible sources of information, those
Yeah.
things that seem to hold all the answers. Throughout history, humans have craved these infallible sources.
Right.
And it often leads to creating holy books
Yeah.
and the institutions that interpret them.
It's a very human desire for certainty and guidance in an uncertain world.
You're right. Take the Bible, for example.
Hmm.
The process of choosing which texts were divine and which were human was done by regular people with their own biases and agendas.
Right.
Even something as fundamental as the Bible has variations and discrepancies.
Oh, yeah.
The Greek Septuagint, an early translation of the Hebrew Bible, differs from the later canonical version.
Yeah.
There are extra books in the Septuagint, and even some key phrases about the origin of nations are worded differently.
It's interesting.
It raises a crucial question.
Yeah.
Which version is truer?
Right.
And who gets to decide?
Exactly.
These questions have caused endless debates and power struggles within religious institutions.
For sure.
Wow, you'd think something like the Bible wouldn't be up for debate like that.
Yeah.
But I guess what you're saying is that even with something that is supposedly the ultimate source of truth, there's still room for human error and interpretation.
Absolutely.
So how does this relate to our modern world?
Well, think about the allure of AI
Okay.
and the idea that it could be infallible. It's tempting to blindly trust these black box algorithms without understanding their limitations and potential biases.
Right.
It's like replacing one supposedly infallible authority with another.
So the big question is, can any source of information, any system, really be perfect?
That's the question.
And what happens when we believe it is?
Well, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
It's not just about religion anymore.
Okay.
We are seeing a shift in where people place their trust and belief.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating how our need for certainty can make us vulnerable to manipulation.
Okay.
Whether it's through religious texts or algorithms, it all boils down to understanding that information.
Right.
And the systems that process it are always shaped by human choices and biases.
So true. And speaking of systems, our next discussion takes us into the heart of political structures.
Okay.
We're going to compare how information flows in democracies versus dictatorships, especially in this age of information overload, where everyone has access to so much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Historically, democracies have depended on a more distributed flow of information.
Okay.
Power is spread out, allowing for diverse viewpoints and checks and balances to prevent any one person or group from having too much control.
But large-scale democracies, before we had things like the internet, were practically impossible, right?
Well,
Ancient Athens, often considered the birthplace of democracy, only worked because it was a small city-state.
Exactly.
Everyone could participate directly in government because they all lived within walking distance of each other.
Yeah, that's a great point. As societies grew larger, more complex, it became much harder for everyone to participate directly.
Right.
That's where technology like the printing press and later radio and television played a key role.
Those were game changers for sure.
Huge.
It's amazing to think how something like the printing press could pave the way for large-scale democracies.
Absolutely. Mass media made it possible for millions to engage in public debates. And stay informed about political issues even if they couldn't physically meet up. It was revolutionary.
But that doesn't mean everything was sunshine and roses.
Well, of course not.
Totalitarian regimes were quick to grasp the power of these new forms of communication and use them for their own agendas.
Exactly. They became masters of controlling the information flow. Using propaganda to sway public opinion surveillance, to keep tabs on anyone who disagreed, and terror to silence any opposition.
A truly chilling example of this is the Stalinist USSR.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dark period in history, but I think it's essential to understand how information can be weaponized.
Absolutely. Stalin's regime excelled at manipulating information. They purged political opponents, sometimes eliminating entire families.
Oh, wow.
Private farms were dismantled during collectivization, leading to widespread famine and death.
That's awful.
It's almost unimaginable the level of control they achieved.
It sends shivers down my spine just thinking about it.
Yeah.
What's even more disturbing is that despite its brutality, the regime achieved some level of success in terms of power and control.
It serves as a stark reminder that information networks, when centralized and tightly controlled, can suppress dissent and maintain power, even at a horrific human cost.
Wow.
And that brings us to the internet.
Okay.
At first, it seemed like this amazing tool for democracy.
Yeah, it felt like the walls were coming down.
Right.
And information would be the great equalizer.
Yes. But as Harari points out, the rise of AI could actually shift the balance back in favor of dictatorships.
Wait, are you saying that the internet, which many saw as a tool for freedom and democracy, could actually be used to create even more powerful and oppressive regimes?
It's a real possibility.
Oh, wow.
Imagine algorithms analyzing massive amounts of data to monitor and control people.
Right.
Or AI systems creating compelling content, even deepfakes, to manipulate public opinion on a massive scale.
That's terrifying. It's like a digital version of what happened in the Stalinist USSR, only potentially even more efficient and pervasive.
Exactly, and that's why it's crucial to understand how computers are fundamentally different from earlier forms of information technology like the printing press. A book, no matter how influential, can't act on its own.
Right.
But a computer, especially one with advanced AI,
can process information, make its own decisions?
Yeah.
Even come up with new ideas, potentially beyond human control entirely.
It's wild.
It's like they're becoming active players in the information network.
Right.
Not just passive carriers of data. So are you saying that computers could create their own realities? Well, that sounds like something straight out of the Matrix.
It's not that far-fetched. We're talking about intercomputer reality.
Intercomputer reality.
Realities created not by human minds,
Okay.
but by interactions between computers.
Whoa.
Think of Pokemon.
Okay.
They exist as bits in a computer network.
Right.
But they have tangible effects on the real world through the actions of millions of players.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. So these digital creations can actually have real-world consequences.
They do.
That raises so many questions about how we value and understand the digital world.
For sure.
It's almost like we need a new philosophical framework to make sense of it all.
You're absolutely right. And the line between the digital and the real is blurring even further.
Yeah.
With the rise of AI-powered algorithms that shape our online experiences.
Like those Google search rankings you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They can make or break businesses based on complex algorithms that are often opaque,
Right.
even to the people who created them.
Exactly. And as AI systems become more sophisticated,
Right.
these intercomputer realities will likely play an even bigger role
Okay.
in shaping our lives, our economies, and even our political systems.
Wow.
And that brings us to a critical issue, the problem of algorithmic bias.
Algorithmic bias.
Many people assume that because computers are based on math,
Yeah, it seems logical.
yeah,
Numbers don't lie, right?
it's a dangerous misconception.
Mm.
Algorithms are trained on real-world data,
Right.
which means they often learn and amplify existing biases. We've seen this with facial recognition algorithms performing poorly on people of color because of biased training data.
And there was that example in the book about the Compass algorithm used in the U.S. justice system to assess the risks of criminals reoffending.
Right.
It was accused of being racially biased,
Yeah.
but even the experts couldn't fully explain why it was making the decisions it did.
That's the scary part. It's a black box problem.
Right.
We often can't fully understand or explain AI's decisions,
Okay.
even when those decisions have huge impacts on our lives.
Right.
It raises serious questions about transparency and accountability in an age where AI is playing an increasingly significant role in decision-making.
So where does this leave democracy in the age of AI?
Well,
Are we headed towards a utopian future where algorithms help us make better decisions?
I don't know.
Or a dystopian nightmare where AI empowers dictatorships and erodes our freedoms?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
It's impossible to predict the future with certainty.
Right.
But what we do know is that technology, especially AI, is a double-edged sword. It can be used for good or for ill, and it's up to us to choose which path we want to take.
Yeah, it feels like we're standing at a crossroads
Yeah?
with two very different paths ahead of us.
Right.
One leading to a brighter future with AI helping us solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, and the other leading to a world where AI is used for control and oppression.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah, it is.
I think one of the first steps is recognizing that this isn't just another technological advancement.
Okay.
We're potentially facing a paradigm shift,
Wow.
a fundamental change in how information is handled,
Right.
how decisions are made,
Right.
even how we understand reality itself.
You mentioned earlier this idea of intercomputer reality.
Right.
And how the lines are blurring between the digital and the real. Are you saying that we're moving into a realm where computers are shaping the world around us in ways we don't fully grasp?
Exactly. To navigate this new landscape,
Mm-hmm.
we need to develop a new understanding of power dynamics. Traditionally, we've thought of power in terms of physical force, money, or political influence.
Right.
But with AI, we're entering a world where information itself becomes a primary source of power.
So the real question is, who controls the information?
That's right.
Who controls the algorithms?
Yeah.
Who controls the AI? Because that's where the power will lie.
That's the crux of it. And right now, there's a worrying trend towards what Harari calls data colonialism.
Data colonialism.
A small number of powerful tech companies, mostly in the US and China, are collecting massive amounts of data from all over the world.
It's like a new kind of colonialism where data is the valuable resource being extracted.
Right.
Our personal data, our online behavior, our digital footprints, it's all being mined and used to create powerful AI systems, often without our informed consent.
And those AI systems are then used to influence and control us.
Wow.
Shaping our choices, our perceptions, and even our political systems.
It's like a new form of imperialism.
It is.
Based on information rather than military might. So how do we fight back against this?
Well,
how do we prevent these tech giants from consolidating their power and shaping the future according to their own interests?
that's the challenge before us. But I believe democracy, with its emphasis on distributed power, transparency, and accountability, is our strongest defense. We need to regulate AI in a way that encourages innovation while protecting human rights and democratic values.
That sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
But how do we actually achieve that these tech companies are incredibly powerful?
Oh, yeah.
With armies of lawyers and lobbyists fighting tooth and nail to protect their interests?
It's definitely an uphill battle, but I think we can find inspiration in past struggles for democratic reform.
Okay.
Think of the abolition of slavery, the women's suffrage movement, the civil rights movement. These were all hard-fought victories against seemingly insurmountable odds.
You're right. Those movements show that even deeply entrenched power structures can be challenged and changed. But it takes sustained effort, collective action, and a willingness to stand up for what's right.
Exactly. And in this case, it also requires us to rethink some fundamental assumptions about what it means to be human in a world increasingly shaped by intelligent machines.
Right.
As AI systems become more sophisticated, they're going to continue to blur the lines between the real and the virtual, the organic and the inorganic.
We're talking about a future where we might interact with AIs as if they were conscious beings.
Right.
Forming relationships with them, maybe even coming to see them as persons in their own right. It's both exciting and a little unsettling.
It is.
Like stepping into uncharted territory.
It is uncharted territory, both technologically and ethically.
Right.
And it raises a host of profound questions.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be human in an age of intelligent machines?
Right.
What rights and responsibilities do we owe to AIs, and what rights and responsibilities do they owe to us?
These are questions we can't afford to ignore. We need to have open and honest conversations about the challenges and opportunities presented by AI and work together to ensure that this technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
I couldn't agree more. And as we enter this uncharted territory, perhaps the most crucial question to ask is this.
Okay.
Given that AI development is largely driven by competition and the pursuit of profit, can we really trust private corporations to prioritize human well-being over their own interests?
That's a sobering thought.
It is.
And one that all of us need to grapple with for our listeners who want to explore these questions further.
Yeah.
We highly recommend checking out Yuval Noah Harari's book, Nexus.
Great book.
It offers a fascinating and thought-provoking look at the power of information networks throughout history and what that means for our future.
This has been a truly fascinating discussion.
It has.
It's clear that the choices we make today will have a profound impact on the world of tomorrow.
We hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on the power of information and the challenges and opportunities presented by artificial intelligence. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.